Hi, and welcome to Schmooze with Suze. I'm Suze Montgomery, your host, and today we have Michael Kelly. Are you O'Kelly these days?
O'Kelly.
O'Kelly. Hiccup. I asked Michael to come on. He's been on before, but you know, he's involved in a project here that I think is really kind of exciting for the city of Ventura. I mean, this is going to be like, you're going to make history if you haven't already, which you already have, but you're going to make history locally by using all your talents of art from all these years. Do you remember the first time I met you? I bet you don't.
Well,
this is a trick question.
Well, the things I do remember, we probably can't talk about on television. But,
all right, I'll tell the sanitized version then. Momentum Gallery.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Way back. What year was that?
It's got to be 89, is it? 88?
Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
When you opened the Momentum Gallery. Now, first of all, you have to understand Ventura's, now they consider themselves Art City, but in those days, nobody was really doing any local art.
We built the Momentum Gallery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you opened that, you had the most cutting-edge, unusual, progressive art this city has ever seen. I mean, really. We're not known to be a really neat art city. I mean, we've got some great artists in this town, but we're not known for that.
Well, we did a Rufino Tamayo show, which they didn't do till 20 years later at Santa Barbara Museum.
Well, and I remember that Tamayo was huge, Mexico. Yeah. And but your taste in what you put into the Momentum was really, it was for this town. It didn't fit in this town. I mean, that's probably going to insult a lot of people, but it was so progressive for Ventura.
Well, there were no bars or restaurants either.
Oh, well, now
I'm just kidding. No.
Now there's one every 5 feet.
I think there was a Rendezvous Room in the King and I.
Let's see, the King and I was on Main Street up by the hospital, and the Rendezvous, believe it or not, you know, the Rendezvous was on the corner where, what is it, Capriccio's is, and originally that was the very first police station in town. Well,
I first came to the States and I found I could get an adult beverage for $2, blew my mind.
Really?
Yeah.
Because what was it in the UK?
Well, you couldn't even get them in the UK.
Oh, okay, and no adult beverages, really?
Well, I mean, you know, cocktails.
Well,
cocktails were an amazing thing, and you couldn't get those. If you went into a pub in London and asked for a gin and tonic,
right?
They'd look at you like you're a bit odd, and then they say, "Do you want ice?" And you'd say yes. And they say 1 lump or 2, and that would be.
That's it?
A pub in typical London in the early 1980s, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's talk about what you're doing here. I'm dying to see all this because you know, the history of Ventura, you know, we talked to Cheryl Heitman about that. It's our 150th birthday, correct? So the city knows your art because everybody knows your art. And the city contacted you to do this piece in front of the Mission, or did you go to them? How did this evolve?
Well, I got to give all the credit to Christy Weir.
Oh, what did Christy do?
Christy has been a fan of what I do for a long time. And she first came to me a while ago just to have a chat about doing a mural in town, knowing this event this year is coming up.
Correct.
And we looked at some locations and some ideas, and it started off in a small way. And then we met with different people, met with some people from the city, and it grew into what it is now, which is actually quite a big project.
It's a huge project.
And it's not really I wouldn't call it a city project, it's more of a community project.
This is directly in front of the Mission on Main Street, correct?
Well, if you're looking at the Mission from Mission Park,
okay.
to the left of the Mission is the parish school.
Right.
And it's going to be that wall. There's a wall there right now, which goes from the steps going up to the school
okay.
to the parking lot.
Didn't Devin go to school there?
Yeah.
I thought
yeah,
so.
my kid,
okay.
yeah. We're going to knock that wall down and build a new wall. And this up to all the engineering that we need to ensure that the mural lasts forever. I mean, as long as the wall lasts, the mural will last.
How big is are you increasing the size of the wall, or is it going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be 9 feet high.
Oh my God, this thing is huge.
Yeah, and 60 feet long.
This is huge.
Yeah.
And these are all tiles?
It's ceramic, high-fired, handmade ceramic.
And you're doing all of these?
Yeah.
You're working like night and day, right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I do have fun occasionally.
Oh, what? Not much if you have to get that many tiles.
No, it's a lot of work, but I mean, I'm getting a lot of help.
Okay.
People are great. I mean, the families, I know you've recently interviewed a lot of old
right.
families, and they've been really helpful. They're helping sponsor it and fund it, and I'm getting all kinds of materials and photography and paintings from the past. We've got the museum's helping a lot, and Cynthia Thompson, you know
She's
Cynthia?
Brilliant.
Cynthia Thompson, I couldn't do this without her. She saved my life on this thing, because I was starting to do research on it, and I was bogged down. It was so much history to put into a space, and she came along, and she's working with me tirelessly, and what she's come up with is fantastic stuff.
I remember when she first came to town. This is probably, what, 15 years ago maybe, somewhere thereabouts. Yeah. And before that, we always just took our history here for granted. I mean, it's always been here, right? So when you see something every day, it's not history anymore. It's just part of the landscape. So she started, I believe one of her first projects is working up at the Pierpont Inn, working with Spencer Garrett. And she started some of the restoration work up there, and then they really got into it because of the long history of the Pierpont.
And she's been making the landmarks in town and registering them.
Has she been doing this?
Yeah.
She, her research is amazing to me. I mean, she really, I mean, does she write books on this?
She just, I think she's on her 5th book right now.
Really?
And we're going to be doing a book on this mural.
Oh, that's wonderful.
A big coffee table book with all the history that I can't fit into the actual mural itself, and stories about the families and the history. But it's remarkable to me what I didn't know and what I know most people don't know about this town, which is...
off camera, you told me about the, what was it, the
Well, the people here, there are people here that have done remarkable things. There's a guy named Vandover who was an attorney. He was a senator, and he ended up living in Ventura, and he's the one who sponsored the bill to make Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Park. That was the guy who was from here. And,
nobody knows this information.
Yeah, it's cool. And then we were joking about gluten, and there was this baker named Baker who was a baker in the 1920s and came up with the whole gluten-free health food concept. And he used to make these giant cakes for FDR and LA and all over the country, and it was all out of Ventura. He made a cake of the Bank of Italy when it was opened and inaugurated. Teddy Roosevelt was here in 1903 and ran up the stairs of the mission to ring the wooden bell that they had.
I never heard that before.
He heard about a wooden bell here. There's so many things that happened. John Lennon played here. Did you know John Lennon played here in 1968?
In Ventura?
Yeah, at John's on the Beach.
I remember John's at the beach.
Yeah, he played there in 1968 for hours.
You're kidding.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff.
I like all these little anecdotes.
Yeah.
And where do you get this from, Cynthia? I mean,
well, Cynthia's opens this Pandora's box of information. I mean, it's stunning.
It just keeps rolling out.
It keeps coming out, and the families here. One of our sponsors is E.J. Harrison.
Oh, they're funny.
And Nan, and they're hilarious and they're fun. They go back to before the mission was built. Moraga, who was the one who actually brought Sarah in to build the mission. That their family goes back all that.
I interviewed them last week. The brothers, now the two brothers, there's 3 of the brothers.
Yeah.
and I did, I did Jim and Myron. Yeah. And they tag team for almost 2 hours on film about the family histories that when we were done, they hit the lights, everything was off, and they just looked at each other and go, I never heard that before. Where'd you come up with that? What did you know, how come you never told that? And they grew up together in the same home. Yeah, but they had probably different experiences at some point, but they just, you know, either they forgot or all of a sudden something rekindled with the other one. They just took off. I just sat there and I'm like, okay.
Well, Nans shows up at my studio once a week with a new donor, a new sponsor.
That's fantastic.
And she cajoles that person, and whatever resistance there might have been, she strips it down, and by the time they've left, they're now a sponsor.
I love it.
She brought in Community Hospital and Spencer, and I don't know, a whole list of people who are now behind the whole
Well,
project,
you know, it's nice because the old families here, most of them stay here. I mean, even the kids that were born and raised here, they go away to college. They always find their way back here. Yeah. They settle here and raise their own families here for the most part. It's something about the city you can't leave. I know the big magnet, which is the ocean out there, it just, you know, they draw you, and it's the old thing, The Sopranos. They bring you in, you can't get out, and it's one of those things. And people just come back here because it is a really neat town to live in.
It's cool, and for me, the most exciting thing is that I've done, my company's done murals before, and some of them fairly sizable. But this is a whole different concept. Well, because it's encapsulating a timeline, which I've never done before. 150 years of a history of a town, and the most exciting thing for me is to figure out how to do it and make it artistic, instead of just being some sort of series of images that is kind of sterile and boring. And this is a real challenge. And having these people and mixing the people and the buildings that have been, the incredible architecture that has been knocked down over the last 100 years, beautiful buildings, and putting that back together and creating a new street, creating the town as a synthesis of what it was and what it is right now, and putting these people in there, and the horses and the carriages and the stagecoaches, and then the more modern cars and vehicles and stuff. It's really interesting.
Watching the evolution of the
as you walk past the mural, eventually you'll have a strong understanding of the evolution of this city.
So does it start at the Mission?
Mainly, it starts in the 1860s because when the city was incorporated, but the Mission is there. But I'm not putting the Mission in a predictable way. What I'm doing is, you know, the murals that are in the Watermark?
Yes.
Norman Kennedy, who was a muralist.
WPA, was he not?
Yeah, WPA artist. I'm actually putting him in there painting the Mission.
Oh, wow.
So then it'll look like he's painting the whole mural. And it's pretty cool, yeah. So it'll be kind of surreal. It's not predictable, and it'll be, I mean, you know me. Yeah. I'm not the most smartest person in the world, but
well, it will be. To your credit, you've probably earned this, okay?
But, well, it will be absolutely stunning. And people are going to come from all over to see it, because no one's ever done anything quite like this in any other city. There isn't anything like this anywhere. The only person who, in my mind, did the kind of thing that I'm doing was Diego Rivera.
So it was your idea, the genesis for this was your idea to do this mural with the tiles?
Well, with Christy.
And she also conceived on, She was on a couple months ago, but she didn't take credit for any of this.
Well, she should. This would not be happening without her. There are two people specifically who are making this possible. One is her and the other one is Cynthia.
Yeah, Cynthia, to me, I don't know, she just loves history. Yeah. And she comes up with, like you said, like this baker individual, the baker that was the baker. Yeah. I mean, things like this, little antidotes. I don't know where she gets this stuff, because most of this stuff is probably not readily available, right?
Well, I mean, if you really delve into things, you can probably find a lot of it at the museum.
If you dig into the
You gotta-
museum
yeah, you
bowels
really
of the
have to
museum,
dig,
they
yeah.
have a
But
lot
I mean,
of things.
she has one of our sponsors is the Smith Hobson Foundation.
Oh, they're
Greg
wonderful.
Smith.
Nice family.
They have a huge archive. He's got over 6,000 photographs and documents going back to the founding
Really?
of the city, because their family goes back that far.
I did not know that.
His family, a huge, people don't have a clue how big his family have been in Ventura. They built the airport. They're responsible for the harbor. They built Hobson Heights.
Right.
All of these aspects of
That
the
was one of
city.
your projects.
Yeah, we did a little thing there. Yeah.
A little thing?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful landmark.
Yeah.
Your
that's
tile.
good. Yeah.
It's
signs,
wayfaring
yeah, the
sign
monument
right in
signs,
front.
yeah.
You know, because not just this, but everything. I see your work over town. You did Dan Friedrichsen's. Didn't you do?
Well, we did a mural there, which I have a rendering of here if you want to see it. But we did I did the whole facade of the Star Lounge.
I didn't know you did that either.
We did that, and then up the road there was a business. It was called Jersey Mike's. It's now something else, but everybody thinks it's an original building. But when we took it over, it was just flat, and we recreated the original 1903 post office facade that we found in photographs from the museum. And that's nothing there is original. We did that about 8 years ago.
For not a native son,
Yeah.
you've become a native son. You probably know more history about this town than obviously the average person, but most historians.
By the end of this thing, yeah.
Well, I guess you got to stay.
I know.
Okay. I know I love your original work. I've seen your original work too. I mean, not just the historical pieces that you've done. Some of yours is, I don't even know what the school or medium it was.
Oh, the paintings?
Yes.
Well, my paintings are, the only way I can really describe them is pre-Renaissance.
They're beautiful.
They're kind of naive perspective, but very detailed. And they're kind of like Bosch or,
Okay.
I'm trying to think who else. They're pre-Renaissance.
Have you always
style,
been, as a child, were you interested in art? Or
Oh,
were
yeah.
you always doodling or doing something?
It's a family curse.
Oh, who else in the family?
Oh, my sister was a great painter. My father, my great aunt, my great uncle, my great great.
Oh, you were destined.
Yeah, I've got paintings. I've got 400 or 500 works of art going back to the 1860s.
Oh boy, are
from
you
the
lucky?
family.
Are you lucky?
I suppose it's not easy to be an artist.
Why?
Because it makes you cranky.
Why would you be cranky as an artist?
Because it's a vicious cycle of being an artist and being cranky, and then being an artist and being cranky.
Is this
and
why
then
people cut off their ears?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
exactly.
Right.
And dealing with people
That don't respect your work?
Well, it's not a matter of respect. It's a matter of understanding why they should pay you. There's a resistance from people because of modern the modern way of thinking, that people assume that artists are destined to be poor, and artists should have a little studio, and when they're ready to come
Starving
out
in a
and pop
garret?
out starving and all that, and then they pop something out. And you go, oh, thank you very much. And
We have not
then you
educated
now go
our
back into your
people
cave.
enough?
No, people don't
Why
have a
is
clue.
that? Why are you not appreciated for your work?
Well, because people don't realize, look, the clothes that you're wearing and the couch you're sitting on was created by an artist. It wasn't created by a manufacturer. Somebody designed it.
See, okay, here's the difference. You see art in a different way.
Well, no, but everything we do, the cars we drive, the toaster you buy, the bed you sleep in, every single thing we stand on, touch, and feel is actually designed.
And this is the way you think, right?
Well, yeah, because artists, the manufacturer didn't come up with that. GQ, didn't, or whatever the companies are, I don't know, who make clothes or furniture, they didn't come up with, IKEA, they don't come up with this stuff as a manufacturer and a corporation. Artists design it. They pay the artists to design these things, but they don't pay them very much. So when you have a beautiful piece of furniture you love, or a beautiful dress you buy, or whatever, somebody made that, but somebody designed it. An artist came up with the idea, And those people don't get any respect. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows their names.
So they devalue the art because of that.
Well, the role of an artist in society is not valued as much as, say, the role of a doctor or a lawyer or somebody else that people look at as a professional.
So that's the role of society, re-educate themselves, though, no?
Well, that's not easy to do because schools don't give art credibility as opposed to math or other sciences or whatever. It's relegated to, you know, if we've got enough money, maybe we'll do something.
They cut art, when they cut art and music programs quite a bit.
So I mean, you know, it's not. I'm not particularly angry about it. But I get concerned about people who have massive amounts of talent, and their talent is put to one side by people saying, well, you need to get a real job. You need to study to be qualified to do something else, and yet the very people who are saying that drive cars, wear clothes, live in houses, and all of those things are designed by artists.
So we need to change our perspective. We need to educate children, first, which will be adults at some point, that how valuable art is, and art is all around.
And this town, I mean, this town is not special in that lots of towns, small towns, they have a skewed view of art and its value. So they understand theoretically that if Stevie Wonder is playing here at the theater, people will come and pay $200 or $300 to see him, and they'll go to restaurants, they'll stay in a hotel, and that money, because of his art, will come into the town.
Now that's a visceral thing. They can
huge
get that.
Tax.
Okay.
But once Stevie's gone,
it's gone.
They don't think of art as the thing that produced that wealth and that income, but it's only the art. He comes in here and does a concert that brings thousands and thousands of dollars in one evening into this town or any town.
I guess we do have to re-educate.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Because when I think
people
about
don't realize
art,
that.
And I have I've got an original piece of art of yours, and I think about art that we have hanging in our home. I mean, every one of them tells a story, but the story is not necessarily the piece of art. It's what went on behind the art, when you created the piece. Who did the piece? Who is it? And I buy artists that I know. I don't buy artists I don't know.
Well, artists are their own worst enemy too.
Why?
Modern artists, they tend to get angry or disillusioned about the monetization of art. And they're very easily swayed into thinking you're selling out here, or you're not being honest over here, you're not being true to yourself over here. But you have to look at the history of art. If you go to Florence, that people would consider one of the most beautiful artistic towns in the history of Western culture.
It is indeed.
And you'd say to somebody, well, because I've had criticism here for this mural, because the mural project's taking money from sponsors. And those sponsors and families and people from their ancestors are going to go into the mural. And people say, oh, well, you're selling out.
Seriously?
And so my answer to that is if you think of the greatest work of art in Western culture, monumental, which some people would consider, say, Sistine Chapel.
Right.
Ceiling.
Okay.
I know for a fact, but people may not know unless they study, that none of those people in the ceiling, Michelangelo didn't make those people up. They're not like, oh, I think I'll make this guy with the big nose and the thing here. They're people in the city who were patrons of the arts, and he put them in places as part of a story, because without those people, you wouldn't have Florence.
True.
If those people, those merchants and those aristocrats didn't pony up with cash,
the Medicis,
you wouldn't have art at all. And people cite modern artists, say 20th century, like Gauguin, someone who worked really hard, who lived a very simple life, who was in Tahiti and in France, and he was just trying to be a painter. But Gauguin said there are only two types of artists. There's the plagiarist and the revolutionary. And if you want to be successful, you have to do a bit of both. That's Gauguin. So artists need to step up too and be more aware of how to be in business. It's a job. It's not some kind of, mystical thing.
Oh, I can't do anything else. I'm going to be an artist.
Yeah, and I got to do myself. I got to be myself, and I've got to do this, and I've got to be honest about my life and about my work, and I can't sell out to the man. It's rubbish.
Don't you think we need to educate people better, though?
Well, if education...
I mean, starting in young children.
Well, if education illustrated to children and to society that art is part and parcel of the economy, then children would grow up to become artists who are aware of how to turn it into a business and not suffer and not be relegated to some outpost of some fringe
I
culture.
totally get that.
And they need to be just as integrated into the culture, as I say, as an attorney is, a doctor is, an airline pilot, a dentist, whoever you are in the world. It's just another job, and
well,
you need to not make it so special.
In Europe, that's during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. That's what they really encourage. But where it fell, oh, we're running out of time. But when in America, when I was a kid in high school, I had 2 semesters of art appreciation. I don't think kids get this anymore. I mean, art appreciation would actually, it gave, and I have no artistic ability. My father was an artist, and a very fine artist. And it was a bane of his existence that the kid could not draw. But it was appreciation. I was taught this in the home. And then when I went to school, I went to private schools. I was taught that as well. I think we're losing something by not teaching our populations about the fine appreciation of art and to treat it as a occupation, not as just something, well, I can churn out this piece and I need a couple bucks.
You said it. I mean, it should be, and it is just another occupation that should be given the same respect
as a career,
and monetized the same way and dealt with the same way as any other skill that you spend your life learning, so that you can deliver something to the community, and that's the way it should be treated.
And I think that's a good place to stop, because boy, that was brilliant.
Oh.
Wow, you are smart. Okay, if there's a takeaway from this show, is I think we just got a full education on art appreciation from Michael O'Kelly. Please, buy one of these wonderful, I guess they're tiles?
Yeah, these plaques, we're putting these out for people who'd like to participate in a smaller way. That you can get them at the Visitors Convention.
Yeah, Visitors Bureau on the corner of Santa Clara and California Street.
And it's still not too late to be a sponsor on the mural and have your name in the donor wall.
Be a part of history,
yeah.
Right?
And,
it's time
then
you pony up.
You are part of it forever.
Thanks for coming on.
Sweetie.
I love you. Thanks for joining us. We got to get you back more often here, kid. Okay. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.